Okay, so it looks like most people have joined now. So welcome everyone. Welcome to those who just joined us. My name's Jill Gates. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm going to be kind of walking us through tonight and introducing us to the presentation here. So to begin, I just wanted to say a few important words before we get started here. So as treaty people, we at Western are grateful to be able to live, work, and play on this land. Western's campus is located on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabeg, the Haudenosaunee, the Lenape-Awak, and the Chinungtung nations. These lands are connected to London's township and the Sombra Treaties of 1796, along with the Dish with One Spoon Covenant Wampum. We respect this long-standing relationship with Indigenous nations with this land, and they are the original caretakers here. So at Western, we acknowledge the historical and the ongoing injustices First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people have endured in Canada. We accept the responsibility as a public institution to contribute to the truth reconciliation, which includes revealing and correcting miseducation, as well as renewing respectful relationships with Indigenous communities through our teaching, research, and our community service. So I just want to say thank you all for being here with us tonight. We're going to go through a few housekeeping items before we get right into it. So first of all, this session is being recorded and it will be available on our website in the next few days. You'll also be able to find it on the same page that you went to for registration. So just as a reminder, that's welcome.uwo.ca/presentations. Next, live closed captioning is enabled for this webinar, and if you'd like to turn it on, you'll find the live transcript button right at the bottom bar, and you can choose show subtitle or view full transcript. Just remember though, this is live closed captioning, so we can't guarantee the accuracy. Next, your video and audio will remain off for today, but that doesn't mean we won't have a chance to interact together. We're going to have a few polls going on throughout the presentation, and we also want to answer all of the questions that you guys have. So you can submit questions using the Q&A box. You'll find this at the bottom of your screen. You can enter questions now or anytime throughout the presentation, and one of our friends from Western will type in the answers to you, and we'll also answer a few of the most common questions live at the end of the presentation. One tip about asking those questions, though, is you want to be as specific as possible in order to get the best answer. So you're probably wondering what we're going to cover in this webinar. So we're going to first have a presentation from Mark Marner about everything that you need to know about living in residence. As well, at the end, we're going to have a student panel so that you can learn more about residence from a student perspective. We'll finish the presentation off with a live Q&A where we're going to answer some of the most common questions, and we hope that you can join us for this whole presentation. But just in case you can't, there will be a recording available on our website, as I mentioned earlier. So make sure that you sign up for other events coming up this spring, like our Next Step webinar coming up later. You can find a list of all of our upcoming events at the same website that I mentioned earlier. So that's welcome.uwo.ca/presentations. So before we get started with the presentation, let's do a quick poll. So in this poll, we'd love to know where you're from. So are you from London or somewhere else in Ontario? Maybe you're from somewhere else in Canada or even outside of Canada. Looks like we've got lots of answers coming in. Most people are from somewhere else in Ontario. We've got a few London locals, a few out of province. Awesome. So it looks like most people are somewhere else in Ontario. Perfect. Thank you, everybody, for answering those ones. Okay. So now we're going to ask just one more poll before we get started again. And this one's going to ask, who are you watching with today? We're very happy that you're here, and we'd love to know if you're watching on your own. Are you watching with parents, maybe siblings, maybe a furry pet beside you? Let us know in the poll. Looks like most people are watching either by themselves or with a parent. Few people have their pets. Wonderful. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Okay, so whoever you're watching with tonight, we're definitely happy that you're here with us. This is a great step in preparing for your journey coming up. So I'm now going to pass it along. I'm going to introduce Mark Marner. He is our Residence Life Coordinator, and he's going to start this presentation. So we'll go ahead and toss it over to Mark.
maybe it'd be better if I was off mute. Thanks everyone for joining tonight. Thanks Jill for the introduction. And I'm glad everybody's here to learn a little bit more about residence at Western. So as Jill said, my name is Mark Mariner. I am one of the professional staff that work within the residence system. And I'm here tonight to talk with you all about residence and the things that you need to know as you make the decision to come onto campus. So we know there's a lot of important choices that you have to make when you're making that jump to university. And we've got a lot of people on this call and within our community to help you. So please don't hesitate to ask any questions that you have tonight. And I'll be spending some time walking you through the value of living in residence, what some of the amenities are that we will offer, and some of the logistic and process pieces that you can expect to complete throughout the next few weeks. So to start off, I have a video that I'd like to show about what it could look like for you next year in residence. Okay, so I hope that that has spurred your interest in wanting to attend residence with us. And so I thought I'd start out with sharing a little bit about how our system is organized. So if you didn't know, Western has the largest residence program in Ontario and the second largest program in Canada after the University of British Columbia. We currently offer a total of 6,220 bed spaces on campus. And those are distributed across 12 different residence buildings that are organized into 3 unique layout styles and in 3 distinct parts of campus. So you'll be referred to these as neighborhoods. You can see that all of the buildings are geographically located around the perimeter of campus. And so it's usually about a 10 to 15 minute walk from any of the residence buildings to the center of campus, which is great for getting to classes. And for getting to any of the student service buildings that are within the center of campus. We're also really proud of the fact that more than 80% of our first year students choose to live with us on campus. And we think it's a really important part of the Western experience for so many, which is really why we do the best that we can to get this right. Residence is more than just a place to live. It's ranked in the Globe and Mail Student Survey as one of the best places. It's ranked #1 for residences for 11 consecutive years. And in the Maclean's University rankings, residence living at Western has been ranked #1 by students in the medical and doctoral category for 7 years in a row. So it's clear we're doing something right. There's definitely a draw to come to live in residence, and we hope that you will join us. So as I mentioned before, we have a variety of different styles of buildings, and those are outlined here in terms of what area of neighborhood that they are located in. So no matter what building you live in, you'll become a member of the welcoming community and a unique culture and traditions passed down for many years across those different buildings. And so geographically, you can see there's a cluster of buildings in the south end of campus, which is down over here, which would include some of the buildings in this list here. There's a cluster of buildings up in the north and some other clusters of buildings over in the east. And so that's how you'll refer to how our neighborhoods are, or how our campus is separated into neighborhoods. And so if you're wondering about how do I get into residence? The first thing you should know is residence spaces are guaranteed for all first-year students with some caveats. Anybody that's coming directly from high school who's received a full-time admission to Western's main campus by mid-May and has successfully submitted their prepayment by the June 5th deadline would be guaranteed a residence space with us for next year. We firmly believe that the residence is an integral part of an in-person educational experience. And we see this guarantee as a commitment to you to providing the best environment possible for our students to live, to learn, and to flourish during their time with us. Additionally, for high school students that are on a study permit in Canada and are admitted to Western's main campus, we also offer an additional support in the form of a Continue to Canada admissions scholarship. So in addition to a scholarship of $40,000 over the course of 4 years, these students will also be guaranteed a space in residence for all 4 years of their undergraduate studies as well. So if that is something that is interesting to you, definitely let us know because that is an option that you have. So you may ask yourself, why live in residence? What are some of the perks of being in residence versus if you're contemplating living off campus in your first year? As I mentioned earlier, residence is really more than just a place to live in and eat and sleep. It really is an unforgettable experience. What matters are the memories that you make with the friends that you learn about, the people that you meet, and the chance to be a part of a community where you'll have really unique access to things like events, personal support services, and academic programming, really all designed to make your transition to university life easier. We really value a positive environment where individual differences and diversity of backgrounds and lived experiences are not only understood, but they're accepted, they're appreciated, and they're celebrated. And a major benefit to living in residence is also the academic average that people have. So it's the opportunity to access academic services to help you have a successful year. Some of those things might include what we call living learning communities, so being clustered onto floors of other people within your faculty, which we'll talk about in a moment, but also other services like resident staff that are specific for the educational components of your journey and helping you move through some of those transitions. Regardless of your floor, you'll have access to student leaders to help you organize events, offer various workshops, meet with you on a one-on-one basis and ask questions about who you are, what are you about, try and get to know you a little bit more. If there's any concerns that you might have, you can go to these upper year leaders to help support that, and really to be the connection point between you and campus resources to help with opportunities and learning. We also have a full team dedicated to developing some really meaningful out of the classroom learning experiences by coordinating programs, events, and opportunities to engage in residence outside of just your floor. So all taking place in a real safe, attractive, and well-maintained facility, which is not always something that you'll get if you're not living in residence with us in your first year. Some other perks is, as I mentioned before, you're quite close to your classes, so everything within a 10 or 15-minute walk from your residence buildings. Really clean and cared for facilities. So our facilities team takes a lot of pride in making sure that the facilities are maintained to a really high quality of care and standards. Eating in our dining hall. So if you're coming home from a late night class and you have a real desire for some food, going downstairs and taking opportunity for the late night meal service that's provided in our buildings, and a real focus on safety. So all of our buildings are controlled. We want to make sure that when you're in your home away from home, that you feel just as safe as you would be when you were at home at your current location. So in terms of what styles of residence we offer, one of the three styles that I mentioned previously is what we call traditional style. So when you think of a quintessential quote unquote residence building and you think of a long hallway with many doors and lots of people living together, that's what we would consider our traditional style residences. This is the most common, and it's a style that you would typically see in the movies and things like that, where you have a shared double room with a roommate, and you share a communal washroom with members of your floor. The floor washrooms are sanitized and cleaned daily, so you don't need to worry about the standards of those washrooms. And in terms of the buildings that are offered in this style, we have Delaware Hall, which is in the east neighborhood, Medway Sydenham Hall, which is also in the east neighborhood, and Saugeen Maitland Hall, which is in the north neighborhood. All of these buildings offer similar amenities, such as floor lounges, many bookable spaces, and dining halls within the building that you can access at any point of the day. So here's kind of what the layout would look like. Some photos, stock photos on the other of the right-hand side about kind of what these buildings look like that you can expect, and then the floor layouts for the buildings. So most of our rooms in these styles are double rooms where you'd be sharing with a roommate. We do have some single rooms, but they're less common than the doubles. With this being said, learning to share and work together with a roommate is a big part of living the residence experience and getting out and coming into residence. And although that might be, the experience that you have to have, there are also some single rooms that you may not have a roommate for. So if you're looking for that opportunity to have a roommate and live with somebody, this is a great style of residence for you to choose. The next style we can talk about is a suite style residence. So as you can see from the photo here, this is really a whole contained suite into your for yourself. You have here 5 different options for which buildings will be considered suite style residences. So in the east neighborhood, you have Alumni House and Elgin Hall. In the south neighborhood, you have Essex Hall and London Hall. And then again, in the north neighborhood, you have Lambton Hall. And suite style is what you'd refer to as also like an apartment style living. So these are 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, or 4-bedroom suites, depending on which building you're placed in. And in each of these suites, you'd have a single room and a shared kitchen. So all of these, you wouldn't have to worry about a roommate if you're living in a suite style residence. You have a kitchen that is shared amongst everybody within the suite, and then a little common seating area, all within your contained suite for you to enjoy. Okay, so again, here's what a layout could look like for these suites. As I said previously, there are some single rooms in the traditional style buildings. But if a single room is more so what you're looking at, then a suite style room would be something that would be most interested in. And you can rank that as one of your top choices. Okay, and then our third style of residence is what we call a hybrid style. So this is kind of an in-between of a traditional style building and a suite style building. We have 4 buildings that offer this style of amenities. So Bayfield Hall in the north, Clare Hall, which is part of the north neighborhood, but it's a little bit closer to the south. This is our newest addition to our residence system as of this year. Ontario Hall, which is in the south, and Perth Hall, which is in the south. Hybrid style is a semi-private style of residence, and it's a combination of both the traditional and the suite amenities. So in a double hybrid style room, you'd have a roommate in your bedroom, and those things would be like Ontario and Perth, where you'd have a sink and a storage room within the common area, but you won't have things like a kitchen and a living room. So you can kind of see that in these diagrams here, where you'd have a roommate in bedroom A, let's call it. You'd have a roommate in bedroom B, but then the 4 of you would share access to a washroom and a sink, a storage room in one corner, but you don't have the kitchen amenity or kind of the seating area that you saw in a suite style. Again, most of our hybrid style buildings are also double rooms, and you can get a good kind of view of what that could look like up in this corner here. There are some singles, but again, mostly doubles. And Bayfield Hall in the north has a unique feature of having in-suite kitchen and a living area, although it's still considered a hybrid building because you're sharing a room with somebody. So that's just a nuance with what Bayfield offers. So regardless of what building style you live in, you will have access to the same amenities and support services, and a number of those are listed on the screen in front of you. In each residence, there are study rooms, there's floor lounges, there's a main lounge, a workout room, laundry facilities, music practice rooms. The list kind of goes on and on. Students can either access the dining hall in their own building or in a building within their neighborhood as well, which is really nice. If the menu in your building isn't exactly what you're looking for that night, you can access a different residence as well. When you move into residence, you'd also be provided with a preloaded laundry card with $50 of credit, which you'd receive when you get checked in. And we have some secured wired and wireless internet connection in all of our residences because we know that really matters. Everybody is online these days. And the network provides sufficient bandwidth to support your academic work in residence as well as your day-to-day requirements. All of the utilities, including the internet, are also all included in your residence room rate. And we also offer some in-suite cleaning during the fall and spring reading weeks. So when you leave for the break, our facilities team will come in and offer some light cleaning to make sure that when you return back from that break, that you are entering into a clean environment. So if we move forward to the dining experience, it's very easy when you live in residence because we have 8 in-building dining halls. So of our 12 buildings, 8 of them have a dining hall that's built into the building itself, which makes eating very convenient. So menus operate on a multiple week rotating basis for select entrees with the flexibility for each dining hall to offer new dishes and sometimes even chef specialties in addition to the regular menu. So it's very rare that you get tired of the selection that you're seeing. Our dining team works really hard to be innovative with the dining experience and the menus that they do offer, and there's always innovation that happens throughout the year with those as well. You can also look forward to theme dinners a lot of the time in our buildings. So for things like holidays, for any time that there's inspiration that the manager of the dining unit has, you may walk into a Willy Wonka theme one night. You may walk into a Halloween theme one night. You may walk into a Winter Wonderland during the winter season. So it's really an exciting opportunity to engage with some of those colleagues as well. We also have a registered dietitian on our team that can work directly with students who have food allergies or dietary requirements, or who just want some additional assistance with meal planning. If that's something that falls into into something you're looking for, we have the access to be able to reach out to the registered dietitian. And throughout the year, you can always reach out to your dining hall staff as well if you need some additional support with questions about what's in this food. It's very well labeled when you're in the dining hall to make sure that allergies are very well accommodated. So as I said, there's a wide range of food options that are available. Each day you'll have a variety of hot entrees that are offered, a gourmet deli sandwich bar where you can go up and make your own sandwiches, our salad bars, fruit bars. A lot of our dining halls are offering many different options of plant-based and halal food offerings. And as I mentioned previously, very allergy friendly. So you can work with our dietitian or your chef within your residence building to make sure that you're fully understanding of what you can eat and what you can't, and make a plan with our staff if there's extra support that you might need. So when it comes to how you access and utilize the meal plan or the dining hall, a residence meal plan is mandatory for students that live in most of the residence buildings, except for those that live in Bayfield Hall and Lambton Hall. Your Western One card is your meal plan card. It's also your ID, your bus pass. So when we say it's a one card, it's really a one-stop shop for everything that you need. At the beginning of the school year, this card will automatically be loaded with your meal plan credits. And our system works as a declining debit system. So you pay for what you get. Different to some systems where you swipe once and it's an unlimited buffet option, you're paying per individual item, which gives you some flexibility in terms of how you spend your money. When you get to the cash of when you go and check out, you'd swipe your card for the food that you have, and you can see the declining balance on the screen that's presented to you. Again, so you know how much you're paying for each of your items and can make some informed decisions as you go through your year. With your residence meal plan, also when you're on campus for classes or events, you can also eat at one of the 20 or more eateries on campus using your one card as well. So you can order in, you can eat out at participating meal plan partner locations across Canada, or across London, sorry. Western's worked really hard to maintain some of those connections. So things like Subway or Bearcat or some other restaurants that are within the London community, those will also take your meal plan. And then let's say you get to the end of the year and you do have some meal plan left over. That's also not a worry. It carries over from your residence meal plan to your campus meal plan in upper years. And you can top up those funds online as you need to as well, again, throughout your first year or as you move into your upper years. So as I mentioned, some of the examples of campus eateries are on the screen here. So these are also places where your one card will work, as well as the vending machines in the residences and on campus as well. So we try and make it as easy and convenient for you to be able to purchase food wherever you need to. And here are some of the off-campus locations that you can use your meal plan at as well. Okay, so moving forward into the security and the safety services that we offer. So safety and security of our building is our top priority in residence above anything else. And we really do go to a great length to provide as much safety as we can, recognizing that this is your home away from home for an 8-month period. So every residence has a front desk that's only a call away. We have resident staff members that live on every floor to make sure that they're there and helping to support what that transition looks like, as well as some guest registration staff that work on weekends and some of the high priority nights to make sure that people coming into our buildings are people that are supposed to be there. The bottom line with this slide is there's always somebody there to help you. We want Western to feel like your home, and that means you as a student and your parents who are entrusting you in our care for those 8 months are feeling like you're safe, you're secured, and that you're supported. And there's a number of resources in housing as well as across campus who are also here to help support that. So that could be things like Western Special Constables, our student emergency response team. We have some emergency phones that are all across campus should you be walking home, and a system called Foot Patrol, where if you're walking home late at night, let's say after studying in the library, and you would like somebody to walk with you, if that makes you feel more comfortable, you can call a service and they can provide somebody to walk you back to your residence, or to various places off campus as well. So here are some of those services that I just mentioned. And if we drill down even deeper into the supports that you would have in each building, you'll have a residence Dawn, which is an upper year student that lives alongside you on your floor, whose main role is there to help your transition to university. So we've got Dawns on every floors. We have residence education advisors, which are staff members that are also focused more so on the education side of the house. So these people would be ones that would help put on programming that is academic in nature. They would hold office hours that you can drop into to ask questions about your program, ask questions about who do I talk to within my academic counseling office if I need support, many different areas like that. And then we have our residence orientation leaders, which we call SOFs. And SOFs are also upper year students that live off campus, but are paired with your community and act as that professional friend. They come and they help support you. They bring you to events. They offer support and advice of what worked for them in the past. And they're just another level of service that they provide to you as you're transitioning through this year. In terms of the professional staffs that we have available to you as well. So in every building, you'll have at least one live-in residence life coordinator. So these are professional staff members that is their main job is to support the transition and the safety and security of the building. So these folks supervise the residents' dons and some of those other student leaders, and they're available anytime for you to book meetings with, to talk through anything that's going on, and just to make sure that they're there to support that transition as well. In the after hours, so between the hours of 9 p.m. and 8 a.m., we transition to an after hours complement, which is composed of a resident safety coordinator and resident safety assistants. So these are, again, professional staff members that work 35 hours a week, but in the evening hours, so they can help support some of the safety and security of the buildings by conducting rounds. They'll interact with you when you're back from classes, making sure that you're feeling okay. And if there's any concerns that happen after the day has ended, this team can help really support that. And then finally, our front desks, as I made mention to previously, they're always available and just a phone call away. In every residence building, we'll have at least one front desk that is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So there's always somebody there that will pick up your call if you need. And the front desk then will dispatch the appropriate service to help support in that moment. And as I made mention to a little bit earlier, we have what we call living learning communities. And so these are clusters of students that live on the same floor that have the same faculty. And so they would go through the same classes together and live with people that are in their same program. So it really gives you a good opportunity to live on a themed floor with others that either share the same faculty, program, or interests as you. And these floors really give you a more enriched living and learning environment where they combine the academic integration, personal development, and community engagement all together with no additional cost. So we call them LLCs, and these are offered to students, or they offer students additional benefits, including easy ways to meet peers who share the same interests and academic goals, easier access to study groups and social events because you know everybody in that community is going through the same types of courses that you are, and then programs and events that are really specifically tailored to that of your community's needs and your goals. So if you're interested in living in an LLC, make sure that you indicate that when you're completing your residence placement questionnaire so that we have an idea of how many people we're looking at placing where. Okay, so moving on to roommate matching. So when it comes to roommates, there's a couple ways that you may be placed together. So when you're completing your residence placement questionnaire via your My Housing portal, you'll have the opportunity to select a roommate. You can either be placed with a requested roommate or, like the majority of our students, you participate in our roommate matching process. So if you don't select a roommate on your own, that's no worries. Many of our students don't choose a roommate when they're coming into residence and are matched by our office with a roommate based on their application or the applicable information that they provide on that placement questionnaire. Over the years, we've received many compliments about our roommate matching process, and it's been the start of a lot of friendships that we've experienced and got the pleasure of seeing. So the way that this works is that it's a computer-generated lottery is used to assign students to a residence and match your roommates. The program considers the information that's provided on the online placement questionnaire, which includes things like your lifestyle preferences, roommate and building preferences, as well as other information, and then puts all of that together to create your pairings. When you're looking at what types of rooms you would like to live in within our buildings, as part of our commitment to diversity, we're really pleased to offer both single-gendered and mixed-gendered housing as an option, which again enhances some flexibility so that all students can feel comfortable where they're living. So in the placement questionnaire, students will have the option to opt in to mixed-gendered suites. So if a student chooses the mixed-gendered housing option, we will not consider their gender identity when placing them in a room or a suite with other students. So what this means is that you could potentially be placed in a suite with someone who identifies as a different gender than yourselves. And the mixed gender suites is an opt-in process, and accommodations can be available based on demand. So it defaults to single gendered, but if you don't care and you'd like a new experience, you can select an opt-in to mixed gender. We'll place students who opt in for mixed gender housing in Elgin Hall, Essex Hall, London, Alumni, and Lambton, as well as the single hybrid suites in Ontario and Perth. So should you wish to live in one of those mixed gendered housings in a shared double room, we would just ask you to email housing@uwo.ca to help us manage that request with you. And in terms of the gender preferences as well, Clare Hall is going to be an all women's residence this year based on demand. And so if you're looking for an all women's accommodation, Clare Hall would be a great choice for you. Okay, so with all of this information being said, there's a few things that you need to keep in mind. So one of the first things that you need to do is accept your residence offer by logging in, completing the residence placement questionnaire, and then submitting your prepayment. So when you're completing that placement questionnaire, again, via your My Housing portal, you'll be asked to rank your residence buildings in the order in which you prefer them. Your profile from there will then be assigned a random computer-generated number, and when the number is pulled from our system, you'll get your first ranked building choice, unless that building is already at capacity, in which case we would then go to your second choice, your third choice, your fourth choice, etc., until one of your building placements is met. So in the summer, you'll be notified what building you were placed in so that you can prepare to pack, pay your fees, and move into residence. So we'll make sure that that gets sent out to you once you've submitted all of your documentation. In order to keep your residence spot, make sure that you pay attention to deadlines and make your payments on time. So the first payment that is important is June 5th. That's your deadline for your first prepayment. But all of the relevant dates, the fees, and the key the steps that you need to keep in mind when submitting your documentation and accepting your offer can all be found at residence.uwo.ca /applying. Okay. So in terms of fees, you can see on the screen here what our fees for this coming year will look like. So the rates on this table is the current numbers for reference. The 24-25 rates are on the website, and you can check those out as well. In terms of the cost, here's some of the important information that I'd like to share with you to keep in mind. We understand that it's quite an investment, and it's important for us to provide a variety of options so students can have a residence experience that really best suits your individual needs. One of the questions we're often asked is like, which building is the best? And it's really hard for us to answer that question because there's so many different reasons why some people would pick one building over the other and rank them in whichever order they chose. So some people rank their buildings in terms of proximity to campus and their classes. Some rank them in terms of having more privacy. Maybe price is really important for you, so you might rank some of the cheaper buildings on the higher end, or even because your parents have lived in a building before and it was a really great experience and they want you to have that experience as well. So it's really all based on personal preference and what you think you'd like to get out of this experience. Again, no matter what building you live in, you'll have access to those same amenities, the support services, and really the experience in that building will be what you make it. So there's no wrong decision in terms of where you choose to live. So I know that was a lot of information and I went over a whole bunch of stuff. So we're certainly able to answer some questions if you have them tonight beyond what I've shared with you. And I can see that lots of folks have been utilizing the Q&A so far, which is great. If there are questions that you don't get answered tonight or that you think about after the presentation is over, a lot of information can be found on our website at residence.uwo.ca. But my colleagues are more than also happy to answer some of your questions if you email housing@uwo.ca, and somebody will definitely get back to you with those answers as well. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Jill. But thank you so much, everybody, for your time tonight and for considering Western, and we really hope to be welcoming you to campus in September.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. That was such an insightful presentation. Definitely a lot of important information, a lot of things to be thinking about as you guys are heading into the fall semester and thinking about residence. So we're now going to launch our third poll of the evening. So this one's going to ask you, what are you most excited about when it comes to living in residence at Western? Are you most excited to make new friends? Maybe it's eating in the dining halls, walking to classes, joining those social events on your floor, or maybe it's all of the above because they all sound incredibly interesting. Let's see, we've got lots of people saying all of the above for sure. They definitely all have exciting parts about them. Making new friends is a big one too. Awesome. Thank you all for answering that one. Okay, so we're just going to do one more poll here before we get going with our Q&A here. So this one's just asking if you've decided yet if you will be joining us at Western in the fall. Maybe some of you haven't accepted your offer yet. You're kind of waiting, making the decision. So let's see how that kind of pans out. It looks like most people here with us tonight have accepted, and they're very excited to be joining us at Western in the fall. We're also very excited to have you. For those of you who haven't made your decision yet, hopefully tonight gives you some more insight into that, and that can help educate your decision. Okay, so let's continue on here. So now that we're done with all the polls and we've had that presentation, I'm going to invite Caroline and Matt to join us for the student portion of our panel this evening. So if you guys both want to pop your cameras on here, and we'll get started with that part. Perfect. Okay, so welcome. Thank you both for joining us tonight. So if you would mind maybe first introducing yourself to everyone. So if you want to talk maybe a bit about what you're studying, what residence you lived in, where you're from.
Yeah, for sure. I can start us off. So my name is Matthew. I'm currently a third year going into fourth year medical science student. I'm studying epidemiology and biostatistics, and I lived in Delaware Hall in my first year. I then soft, so student leader at Delaware Hall in my second year, and I had soft there for my third year. So definitely long history with residents, and I absolutely loved every minute of it. And I'll pass it off to Caroline.
Thank you, Matt and Jill. So my name is Caroline. I just graduated from my fourth year. I did my undergrad in a Bachelor's of Medical Sciences program. So I did a specialization in medical cell biology and then a minor in psychology. So I've lived in residence all 4 years, actually. So in my first year, I lived as a resident in Saugeen Maitland Hall. In my second 2 years, I worked as a Dawn in Saugeen Maitland Hall. And then in my last year, I worked in Delaware Hall. So all traditional residences. And yeah, it's good to see everyone here.
Awesome. Thank you both for introducing yourself. So let's get right into some of the questions here. So we're going to do some kind of generic questions first, and then we'll get into some of the most common questions from the evening. So the first question that we have here is, what is the best part about living in residence? What was your favorite part of it? Maybe what was your friend's favorite part? Just overall, what's the best part about living in residence?
Oh, sorry. So I would say there's a lot of really great parts about living in residence. If I had to choose one, I would have to say the people for sure. You definitely come across a lot of different people with a lot of different diverse ranges of experiences as well as backgrounds. You have people who have very different areas of study from what you might have, as well as different interests. So you're bound to find people that you're really going to connect with. And I think that I really found that in my first year because it was COVID year for me. And I know it was a very isolating time for a lot of people, as many of you might have experienced, but I think that living in residence allowed me to connect with others. And then that kind of made my first year actually pretty normal, other than classes being mostly online. And I think through this process, I made lifelong friends, and I found people who would hang out with me, people who have the same classes as me. And I also found people who would go do random things like go swimming and running with me. So that was a really good environment to be in my first year, I found. I also found a lot of mentors, and not just my own student leaders, my own softs and dons, but I also received a lot of guidance and support from other student leaders from other floors. And that support was very helpful in my transition into university, as well as my interest in pursuing a role as a resident staff member. And so that's something that was very valuable to me. And then aside from the people, I definitely think the convenience is really, really great about living in residence. I live super close to all my classes. I wake up half an hour before like class. I leave like 10 minutes before, and I can still get there with a few minutes to spare. So I would definitely say that that's a huge perk. And with that proximity, I have so many friends that are all within arm's reach. And that definitely comes back to the people, which I would say is the best part about living in residence.
Awesome. I'll just jump in right on that. I definitely have to agree with Caroline. Although lots of things are really great about it, I really love the food, but the people definitely take the cake on it. It really eases your transition. So when I was going to Western, I didn't know anybody. I had no friends from high school, and I was so nervous. But living in residence just sets you up to build community super fast, get you integrated into Western, get you feeling like a Western student. Really, really quickly, you're surrounded by people that are like you at all times in residence, especially if you live on an LLC. So they're even more like you. And it's really easy to make those connections and make friends quickly. And they'll form friendships that are kind of the ones you'll have for the rest of university. And even if they're not your best friends, they'll definitely always have that connection. You always have that community with people you lived with. And it's a really great experience.
Awesome, great answers. Both of your answers kind of play into our next question here. And this one's, how did you make friends in residence? So do you have any specific tips for how you made friends? How did you kind of navigate that?
I can start this one off. So I think the great thing about residence is that you are going to make friends no matter what. You are surrounded by people all the time, and just the proximity to them, you're going to see people in the hallways, you're going to see people in the cafeteria, you're going to see people leaving and coming to the building, going to your class. And just that proximity sets up so much opportunity for little interactions. Even if you just say hi, maybe the next time you see them, you'll have a little chat, and maybe the next time you see them, you'll go to class together. And so that's definitely something that like helps the process along. But some tips and tricks is, for starters, be visible. In your first week, often it's recommended the open door policy. So, leave your door open so you can see people and they can see you. And it just helps that little bit of a push to help you interact with people. And my second tip is make use of the cafeteria. So the caf food is great, and everybody loves the caf, and everybody loves going to the caf together. So if you're ever just going to grab something to eat, maybe knock on the person's door beside you, or maybe text somebody that you met the other day and ask if they want to get food with you, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to say yes. And even more likely, they're going to invite somebody else too. And suddenly you've got a group of people eating together. So definitely make use of the cafeteria to make some friends.
So for me, I would definitely say O Week was like the big time to make friends. And I know like our lovely softs, such as Matt, who was our Delaware head soft last year, definitely make that time a very good experience and a very good time to connect to other students. And so I think that during like move-ins, during O Week, going to all the different activities, and then connecting with people at all these like socials or like different kinds of like just hangouts, that really helped me like get to know more people, and then find out who I really like connected with, and then we just kind of naturally became friends. And I think that what's important to remember during this very critical period is that everyone is in like the same situation, right? And everyone is trying to connect with people to try to make those friends and find belonging in this new space. And so I think that's what really helped me be comfortable reaching out to people and getting to know some more people. And that's something that is a huge perk of living in residence, because like all day, every day during O Week is basically just an opportunity to meet new people and find new friends. And so another thing that I would mention is something that Matt touched on, is common spaces. So we have a lot of lounges in our residences. So we have floor specific lounges as well as building specific lounges. So there's areas for quiet studying, if that's something that you're into, or like group hangouts. So a lot of the times that I've been studying, I've noticed like I've seen like people studying like beside me or something, and I'll be like, oh my goodness, like this is the same course that I'm studying. And then I have a new study buddy and a new friend. So that's pretty great. And then outside of residence, I would definitely say like classes are a big area of making friends for me. And then clubs, I would say, is a huge part of finding connections and finding people who have similar interests as you. So every year we have like our clubs week towards the beginning of the year. And that's something that is super busy and a really fun, exciting time to navigate what you're really looking into. And then finally, we also have like residence events as well as campus events throughout the year. And usually your student leaders will try their best to inform you of as many as they can keep track of. So that would be all the residence ones and hopefully a lot of the campus-wide ones as well. And so I find that going to those ones always allows me to meet new people and make new friends.
Wonderful. Yeah, it always makes me smile listening to people's tips about how they make friends in residence, because I graduated a few years ago and I'm still best friends with a lot of those people that I met in residence. So it's definitely a great place to make those lifelong friends. And you're going to have a blast whichever residence you end up in. Okay, so the next question here, this could go maybe more for the traditional styles, but also for those hybrids and suites. What is it like sharing a bathroom? Maybe you could talk about your experience, if you have some insight into some of the different buildings.
So I lived in traditional only, so I can only speak to traditional style buildings, but the bathrooms in traditional style buildings are very clean and they're honestly like a lot cleaner than any like student house off campus that I've ever been to, that's for sure. And they're cleaned pretty much every day by our lovely facilities management staff. And so that's something that I'm really grateful for because like before I even wake up, they've already got it done. And I go in to take a shower and it's like perfectly clean. I'm like, oh my goodness, like I could never do this. And so I would definitely say like I pretty much never wait to use like toilets, sinks, or showers, just because like everyone has different schedules as well as different preferences. Like some people don't start classes until later in the day. Some people maybe like to shower like in the morning versus at night. I know in like first year I had a little period of time where I was showering at like 4 a.m. in the morning because I had no schedule because it was like COVID asynchronous like classes. But I would say like people have different schedules and I've never found it to be an issue like sharing a bathroom with other like floor members. In fact, I would say like honestly like it's a good bonding time. Like I've had so many like conversations in the bathrooms and like just like bonding moments that I think that it's definitely strengthened my relationships a lot and helps me develop those connections a little bit more in residence.
Yeah, I'll definitely say that on top of the bathrooms not being an issue whatsoever in cleanliness, speaking on traditional, which I lived in, it really is a place where you can bond with people. Brushing your teeth together is weirdly bonding. People will often play music in the showers and kind of you guys listening to the same songs when you're in the bathroom together, striking up conversations. So not only is it not an issue, it's actually surprisingly, I'd say, a positive of traditional residences.
Yeah, awesome. Great answers on those ones. So we're going to get into some of the live questions here as far as what we've seen most often asked in our Q&A box today. So one of them was, were you able to find quiet places to study in residences?
I'll start this one. So you definitely can find quiet places, residences to study. During most class days, a lot of people are at class. So you can study in your room if that's what you prefer, because it's very, very often quiet enough to study in your room. But if you aren't somebody who likes to study where you sleep, there are study rooms in every single residence. So that's a resource. Some residences not just have study rooms, they also have an academic cafe, which is kind of like a library style room, which is also neat. The main lounges and the formal lounges are often study spaces during the day. So those are all really great options, each with different vibes. Some of them are a little more, a little more speaking, some of them are dead silent, but all of them are within residences and they're all viable study options. And of course, the proximity to campus, you can always walk to a library in less than 10 minutes, 10 minutes or so. So there's always plenty of options for you to study.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that Matt said. Specifically in Delaware Hall, like I would say our ability to change it up depending on like the day or our mood is very like valuable. So for example, like if I want really quiet, silent studying, like I'll go to the academic cafe that Matt mentioned, which is like it's got cubicles and like desks, and then that's like along the outside, and then there's like more comfy seats in the middle, which is like really nice. And then if I'm down for like a more like louder or collaborative study sesh, I'll go to the main lounge, and people will talk while they're studying there. And there's also like ping pong and like pool tables, and pool is something that I've picked out from my fellow staff over the past year, actually. So it's definitely a good opportunity to have study breaks as well.
Yeah, of course. Perfect. So thank you both for sharing your experiences with us this evening. So I'm going to invite Mark back and any of the other panelists who want to join us on screen to answer some more of the most common questions. Some of these are a little bit more nitty gritty. Other are some fun questions. So the first one here is, what do I do if I don't use all of my meal plan money?
Sure, yeah, I can answer that. So your meal plan money will automatically transfer over to what we call campus meal plan money after your first year. And so that will allow you to continue to use any leftover money when you want something on campus, if you're wanting to spend money on some of our off-campus partners. So those would be things like your Subways and your Bearcat and the various different restaurants that are within London. So there's some good options there. The other alternative is you can request to have that money returned to you from the meal plan office.
Perfect. Okay, the next question here, what appliances can I bring into my residence room? For example, can I bring a mini fridge?
That's a good question. So the answer to that is it depends a little bit on this type of building that you live in. So if you live in a suite style residence, there's a little bit more flexibility with things that you can bring in when it comes to kitchen appliances, for example. If you're in a traditional building, things like toasters and microwaves and things like that would not be something you'd be able to bring in. But a full list of what some of those appliances that you can and can't bring in are listed online if you wanted to check what that looks like. A mini fridge, you absolutely can. There are some guidelines about what size of fridge could be most appropriate given the size of the rooms. And again, you can find that on the residence website as well, but you're welcome to bring a mini fridge.
Perfect. Okay, so one other question here. I think this might be one of our last ones here before we run out of time. But this one, what is one thing that most people forget when they move into residence?
Oh, that's a good question. A personal answer for me would be, I think that people forget that sometimes the transition takes a little bit of time. It's a lot of change that happens right at the beginning on move-in day. It's a lot of high energy. You see a lot of people, you meet a lot of people. And sometimes there's the notion that by the end of that first day or that first week, I should have created these everlasting friendships. And sometimes that doesn't happen that quickly, right? So I would say be patient with yourself and take the experience as it comes and try not to come in with too many set expectations of this is exactly how my experience will go. Because the more open you are with it, the more you'll be able to go in different paths that you may not have considered before. And that just opens up the possibility of what you might experience while you're here with us.
Perfect. Yeah, I think another big one too that sometimes people forget is flip-flops. For the showers in those bathrooms, you're going to want a pair of flip-flops. Find a pair at the dollar store, throw them in your suitcase, and you'll definitely be glad you did.
And a shower caddy, same thing.
Yes. Yes. Matt, Caroline, do you have any tips?
I think mine's very similar to Mark's, but definitely give everything time. Things might not be exactly like the movies. Obviously the movies are a little more fabricated. But feel free to like take your time with your expectations, with the people you meet, and just be patient and definitely shower shoes. That's the one I was going to say as well. And even more than one pair of shower shoes because sometimes flip-flops rip, and I know that's happened to multiple people. You never have too many slippers. You'll be wearing a lot of slippers in residence.
So for me, I'm definitely like a very proactive like person. So I start making my list like months before like I have to go somewhere. So I would definitely say like start that early, like think about what you need. I know that we have like resources on our websites with like pre-made like beginner like lists of things that you might need in residence, but I think like a lot of things are very personal to us, like what we want to bring and have with us. So that's something that I definitely started planning for very early. Like every time I thought of something that I would need while I was using it at home or something, I'd be like, oh my goodness, like I should write this down, put it in my list. even like if I was like sleeping, I would suddenly wake up and be like, oh my gosh, this needs to go on my list. So I definitely think that that helped me prepare. And when it came time to actually pack, which is a very daunting task when you're packing for such a big like trip, right? It definitely made it a lot easier because then I was just like checking boxes rather than really thinking about what I needed to bring because I already did that throughout the summer.
Yeah, of course. I think another thing to keep in mind is that Western is located very closely to a mall. So you don't need to try and fit absolutely everything into your parents' car. You can get some more stuff once you've settled and things you don't have to lug all the way up the stairs during those big move-in days. So you don't need to have everything right away. Some things you will acquire over time. Okay, so I think that's all the time that we've got tonight, and those were some of the most common questions that we had. But if you're still looking for some certain information, some specific questions, feel free to enter those questions into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. We're going to continue working hard to get all of those questions answered before we fully end the webinar today. So we're going to turn our cameras off now, but like I said, feel free, keep asking those questions. We'll be answering those for a bit before we end the webinar. And for those of you who have all the information that you need, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we hope to see you all at Western in the fall.